think anyone's sceptical of anything new and that isn't tried. And I mean, I think we all know this has been out in Europe for a long time now, and some of the rest of the world. But when something comes into Britain, I think plumbers in Britain are very, very sceptical of anything new. And until you've actually physically tried it or seen it in use, you don't really know. And then the other thing that I was very sceptical about was the price. Until I found out the price of it, you know, you're sitting there thinking, if it's new, it's got to cost a lot more money. And then that's your first instinct, because you're sitting there going, am I going to win any jobs with it? And until you know the price, you know, that's where you're standing. But now I know what the price of it's like, and I've used it, I'm really happy with it. Cost. And the biggest thing for me with this system, I've used a lot of plastic pipe manufacturers across different sites, because a lot of different site builders specify certain manufacturers' stuff. O-rings and grab rings scare the hell out of us physically. I mean, a lot of the time on site builds it's not a problem because you only have to give a 2-year warranty, which is wrong thinking after 2 years you can walk away, but that's the general consensus. But in a domestic type view, if I'm putting in for something, I want it to be there a long time. And there's been instances with certain other manufacturers where issues do come up with grab rings and O-rings. And normally it is just a grab ring and O-ring, but with this system, taking that away, I don't physically see an issue with it. Yeah, that was an issue to start off with, because you just look at something and think, why have I got to pay a lot of money for a tool? Because I think the tool on it is only very expensive for what it is. It's extortionate. But when you add up physically, I actually added up every single fitting like a bit of a sourdough. And when you add it all up, it was actually cost more than it would do if you brought it in the pack. So to get the pack with all the pipe, the fittings and the expander tool, it was just an absolute no-brainer. And having 2-3 jobs lined up, it was well worth the punt. Loved it, if I'm honest. I was very impressed with how quick it was. There was a few slight issues with stock to start off with, but that's now been resolved. I think it was very new when I first started using it as well, but I find the pipe's a lot more flexible than a lot of other manufacturer stuff. I know they say it can't be straightened, but it can be pretty much straightened to an extent, not as much as, you know, like a straight length of pipe would, but off a coil you can straighten it. So for ease of use, it was very good. When you make a fitting, because you're sitting there looking at literally a pipe, a plastic cover and a solid plastic fitting, as long as you put the fitting in, there's no need to worry about anything, because there's no grab rings or O-rings to worry about. Whereas with some of the other manufacturers' materials, every now and again you'd push a fitting in and think, have I pushed the O-ring out on that, or have I done this? So you physically have to take it out and put it back in, but with this it's literally push it in and it sticks. You can physically feel it stuck in place. I mean, two of us sat there one day, put a socket in the middle of 2 bits of pipe, and there was 4 of us playing tug of war with a 50-metre roll, and we couldn't pull it out. The cost of it's very good. I mean, it's not dissimilar to most other manufacturers' gear, but it comes in, depending on your discount, etc., very much similar or slightly bit cheaper, if anything. The main reason I will continue to use it is literally because it's solid, there's no grab rings or O-rings. It's more of a confidence thing, you know, I can go home and say, unless I've physically done something wrong, there's not going to be an issue on that job. Yeah, that's another reason I like it, because I still personally like to terminate things in copper. And because you've got that option to literally adapt it from copper to plastic, you take away the DIY element. I mean, anyone can solder, it's not a problem, but obviously soldering to a decent level is a different thing. And I think if people see you're still there with a blowtorch, etc., it gives you a bit more professionalism than someone that's just going to throw a load of other push-fit fittings around. With my discount, obviously that depends on how much you're going to buy through your merchants and where you're buying it from, I actually find it considerably cheaper than the competitors. The pipe is a lot cheaper. In fact, it's half or even under half the cost of copper. It then depends how you run your system, as in whether you run back to a big manifold kit or whether you tee off, etc. The fittings are probably slightly more than copper, but there's not a lot in it. But again, you can be very clever how you run your pipe work to cut down on the amount of fittings. Well, mainly in domestic houses, it's going to be one of the plastic companies or literally a copper alternative. There's not a great deal of iron used, etc. anymore, but there's the odd times you'll need to convert to it, but then you can do that with copper and then again adapt to the push fit side of it. On big refurb jobs, I'm using it all in Q&E and then converting to copper. I haven't actually used any other push fit manufacturer for the last 2 or 3 months now since I've been using Q&E. I will use the odd fittings in circumstances on retrofit jobs where you just need a fitting, for example, because that's where Q&E will sort of fall short on. It's not a quick turn up to a job, stick something on. I mean, I've got a couple of showers to fit soon on some pumps, and again, I'll just literally run long lengths of rolls of pipe, and I'll use Q&E for that and then convert it to copper on the ends, because again, I like the fact that you can finish it in copper, put some valves on, etc., and you take away that DIY looking element of it. And I think people appreciate that. I think I've done that already on social media sites, to be fair, without any hesitation. Yeah, I've said to a few people in the merchants, and obviously I've told quite a lot of people on Facebook and Twitter what I think of the product and pictures of the jobs, etc.